The academy was buzzing with energy. Aliens of every shape, color, and size moved through the halls, their voices a mixture of clicks, hums, and melodic tones. Holographic screens floated above doorways, displaying schedules, scores, and the occasional announcement from the administration. For most students, life at the academy was predictable, orderly, and safe. But today, whispers raced through the corridors like sparks in dry grass. "He's from a death world," one student said nervously, his antennae twitching. "I heard no one from there survives past childhood. Do you think he's even sentient?" Another hissed, casting a sideways glance at the entrance. By the time the new student appeared, the rumor mill had already turned panic into full-blown fear. The doors opened and a figure stepped in. He looked ordinary at first glance, but as the student stared, disbelief replaced curiosity. He had broad shoulders, a lean and muscular frame, and scars crisscrossing his arms and neck. Not the smooth, polished appearance the aliens were used to. His clothes were simple, almost primitive, but functional. His dark eyes scanned the room, calm and steady, as if he were assessing the world rather than being awed by it. A murmur rippled across the room. "He survived? The death world?" one student whispered. Others nodded, unable to speak. The Deathworlder did not respond to stares or whispers. He moved quietly to the registration desk, completed the formalities, and looked up at the assembly of alien students. Their eyes, antennae, and tendrils were fixed on him. He smiled faintly, but there was no hint of fear or arrogance, only awareness. By lunch, the academy was in chaos. Alien students whispered in every corner, exchanging exaggerated tales of the Deathworlder's abilities. Some claimed he wrestled predators twice his size, tamed poisonous beasts with bare hands, and ran across molten rivers for exercise. Others debated whether his species even needed food or air in the same way they did. Despite the panic, one alien, a tall, green-skinned cadet named Varkon, decided to test him. During the physical training session, Varkon challenged the newcomer to a standard endurance test, lifting heavy weights while navigating a zero-gravity obstacle course. Most students had spent months preparing, relying on technology and training to excel. The Deathworlder stepped onto the course. He did not hesitate. With minimal effort, he leaped, twisted, and ran through obstacles using his body naturally and efficiently. Aliens gasped as he lifted weights easily, sometimes using motions they had never seen before, moves that seemed almost instinctive. By the end of the session, the Deathworlder had completed the course faster than anyone else, and without a single mistake. Varkon's jaw dropped, and a few students muttered in disbelief. "Impossible. He's not supposed to be able to do that," one said. In the cafeteria, the whispers continued. Students crowded around, trying to observe him. Some offered their favorite foods, hoping to earn favor. Others hid, afraid to be noticed. The Deathworlder, however, ate simply, choosing what he needed without any display. He seemed more interested in watching how others moved, interacted, and thought than in seeking attention. The next class was survival skills, a subject that was both practical and competitive at the academy. Aliens were given hazardous simulations, simulated firestorms, toxic gas chambers, and predator encounters. They relied on training, technology, and teamwork to succeed. The Deathworlder, however, moved through the hazards with surprising ease. He calculated, observed, and adapted. When a simulated predator attacked, he sidestepped, used minimal force, and neutralized the threat efficiently. Aliens stared in shock. No one had ever handled the simulation so calmly and successfully. By the end of the day, the rumors had multiplied. The Deathworlder's simple movements, efficiency, and calmness were interpreted as superhuman. Panic and awe mixed in equal measure. Some students were inspired, others intimidated. A few began plotting ways to challenge him further, while the majority simply wanted to stay out of his path. During a group exercise in the zero-gravity lab, things escalated. A technical malfunction caused one of the floating platforms to spin out of control. Students screamed as they struggled to maintain balance. The Deathworlder, without hesitation, jumped, grabbed the platform, and stabilized it, allowing several students to hold on safely. His movements were precise, powerful, and calm. After the incident, the academy was silent. The students who had panicked earlier now stared at him with a mixture of awe and fear. Some muttered, "I think he's human." Others whispered about how humans had always been underestimated, capable of surviving conditions no other species could endure. Even the instructors were impressed. They had seen many elite students, but the Deathworlder's combination of physical ability, intelligence, and instinct was unmatched. They began to realize that he was not only a survivor, but someone who could teach the Academy a lesson in resilience. By evening, word of the Deathworlder's actions had spread across the entire Academy. Students exchanged stories of his calm handling of the zero-gravity accident and his flawless performance in the obstacle course. The initial panic was replaced with a tense curiosity. Alien students wanted to know more, some eager to learn, others secretly fearful of what the humans might be capable of. That night, in the dormitory hall, some students whispered among themselves, "We can't underestimate him. He survived a death world. We don't even know what that means." A few brave students approached him, curious rather than fearful. They tried to start conversations asking about his home planet, his experiences, and his perspective on survival. The Deathworlder spoke simply, answering honestly without exaggeration or complaint. His stories of his planet were harsh but factual: extreme weather, deadly predators, and constant danger. Yet he described it with a sense of normalcy, as though it were nothing extraordinary. By the end of the first day, a pattern was clear. The Deathworlder did not need technology or privilege to succeed. His adaptability, intelligence, and instinct made him extraordinary in ways the Academy had never witnessed. As the students drifted off to sleep, some in awe, others still fearful, a quiet tension settled over the Academy. No one could predict what would happen next, but one thing was certain: the arrival of the Deathworlder had changed everything. Alien students whispered to themselves in the dark, wondering how they would measure up to someone who had faced life-and-death situations from birth and emerged unbroken. And in his small, simple dorm room, the Deathworlder lay down, eyes staring at the ceiling, listening to the strange sounds of alien life outside. He did not boast, did not plan to dominate, and did not seek attention. Yet, without effort, he had already left an impression that would last far beyond the first day. Outside the Academy, the stars glimmered cold and distant. The galaxy was vast, filled with countless dangers, wonders, and mysteries. But the Deathworlder, calm and resilient, had arrived, and wherever he went, the ripple of human strength and adaptability would follow. Tomorrow, the Academy would begin to test him in ways no student had ever been tested before. Some would try to challenge him, some would try to avoid him, and some would begin to wonder whether humans, so underestimated, might be the strongest species in the galaxy after all. For now, however, the panic had settled into quiet respect, tinged with fear, as every alien student realized that they were living alongside someone who had survived a world that would have ended them all. The Deathworlder was not just a new student. He was a symbol of resilience, strength, and human ingenuity, and the Academy would never be the same again. The morning sun glinted off the Academy's high towers, casting long shadows over the courtyards filled with alien students. The previous day's events had left an impression that was impossible to ignore. Whispers still followed the Deathworlder wherever he went. Some students avoided him, afraid to be shown up. Others watched him with fascination, trying to understand how someone so ordinary-looking could be so extraordinary. Varkon, the tall, green-skinned cadet who had challenged him in the obstacle course, paced nervously. His pride had been bruised, and he was determined to prove himself. "We need to test him again," he muttered to a group of classmates. "If he survived a death world, maybe he's strong, but can he think fast? Can he handle real danger?" Word spread quickly that the Academy would hold a special multi-environment survival challenge that day. The event was designed to push students to their limits. Sections simulated aquatic dangers, volcanic terrain, desert heat, and zero-gravity obstacles. It was a grueling test even for the best-trained students. The alien students were confident. They had studied the simulations for months. Each had honed skills specific to certain environments. They believed they had the advantage. The Deathworlder, as usual, seemed unconcerned. He studied the arena quietly, analyzing patterns, exits, and tools with calm focus. The challenge began with the volcanic terrain. Lava flowed through channels, steam hissed from vents, and unstable rock formations demanded precision and timing. Aliens leapt from platform to platform using specialized equipment to avoid injury. Many struggled, falling or getting singed by simulated flames. The Deathworlder, without technology, moved carefully but efficiently. His instincts guided him as he chose safe paths, using minimal effort while avoiding hazards that had tripped the most skilled students. When a large rock started to collapse near him, he leapt with precise timing, landing safely and helping another student steady themselves. Gasps and whispers followed him. He doesn't just survive, he protects others too. Next was the aquatic section. Simulated predators swam in the pools and students had to retrieve objects from the depths. Aliens used propulsion devices and breathing apparatus to gain an advantage. The Deathworlder held his breath, dove, and navigated the currents with calm determination. He moved with simple, natural motions, surfacing with objects in hand before anyone else had finished. Several students began to feel the first twinges of doubt about their abilities. In the desert simulation, the heat was intense, sandstorms blew and oxygen levels fluctuated. Aliens struggled with dehydration and exhaustion, relying on advanced hydration packs and energy tools. The Deathworlder ignored gadgets. He paced himself, conserved energy, and chose paths with shade or windbreaks. He adapted to every change in the environment, responding instantly to challenges. By the end, he emerged fresh, while many of the other students were barely able to stand. The final section combined zero-gravity obstacles with a collapsing structural simulation. Students had to navigate floating platforms while avoiding sudden drops, swinging barriers, and simulated energy surges. Panic spread quickly. Several students froze, unsure of where to go or how to stabilize themselves. The Deathworlder acted decisively. He calculated his moves, timed jumps perfectly, and used momentum efficiently. When a platform cracked beneath one of the alien students, he grabbed it, stabilizing it while pulling the student to safety. Cheers and astonished murmurs filled the simulation arena. Even Varkon, standing nearby, could not hide his admiration. By the time the challenge ended, it was clear who had won. The Deathworlder had completed every section flawlessly, saving lives and performing feats the alien students had believed impossible. The judges, instructors, and students alike were stunned. Aliens who had been arrogant and dismissive now looked at him with respect, some even with fear. In the aftermath, the students gathered around him. Many approached cautiously, wanting to understand his abilities. Some asked how he had survived on a death world, and he replied simply, "Life there was hard." "You learn to adapt," he said. "You learn to think, move, and react because survival depends on it." A few students who had once mocked him now listened intently. They asked for advice, curious about the human perspective on danger and resilience. He explained survival strategies not as boasting but as observation and logic. Aliens noted that his methods were different, not reliant on technology, not flashy, but practical, efficient, and deadly effective when necessary. Varkon stepped forward, pride mixing with humility. "I underestimated you," he admitted. "I thought we were stronger, but you think and act in ways I've never seen. You're remarkable," the Deathworlder smiled faintly. "Strength isn't always what you see. Sometimes it's how you survive when no one else could." That evening, the Academy held a ceremony recognizing the results of the challenge. The Deathworlder received no formal title, yet the respect he earned was evident. Students who had once whispered in fear now sought his guidance. Others, previously arrogant, were humbled by his calm effectiveness. The Academy itself seemed different, more aware that human ingenuity and resilience were forces to be reckoned with. Over the following days, small changes began to appear. Alien students tried to adapt human survival techniques, practicing efficiency over showy displays of power. Instructors took notice, realizing that the Deathworlder's presence was teaching lessons beyond mere strength. Observation, adaptability, calm decision-making, and teamwork became more valued, changing the culture of the Academy subtly but permanently. One afternoon, a sudden emergency occurred. A structural failure in one of the Academy's high towers trapped several students. Panic spread. Many froze, unsure how to respond. The Deathworlder reacted immediately, calculating the safest path, coordinating movements, and guiding students to safety. His instincts, honed from life on a death world, allowed him to act calmly where others hesitated. As the last student was pulled to safety, the instructors and observers were silent, realizing the full truth. Humans were not only survivors but protectors, able to act decisively when no one else could. The alien students' awe transformed into deep respect. Some even admitted to themselves that their species' advanced technology and training could not replace the qualities that humans naturally possessed. By the end of the week, the academy was transformed. The Deathworlder was no longer just a new student. He had become a symbol of endurance, courage, and adaptability. Aliens who had mocked, feared, or ignored humans now understood their true potential. They began to collaborate differently, think differently, and even challenge themselves in ways inspired by human resilience. Varkon, once competitive and arrogant, approached him quietly. "I want to learn from you," he said. "Not just to compete, but to understand." The Deathworlder nodded. "Survival isn't about competing with others. It's about learning, adapting, and protecting what matters." The academy had changed. Panic and fear had turned into respect and curiosity. Humans, long underestimated across the galaxy, had quietly shown their true strength. And as the Deathworlder walked through the halls, alien students paused to watch, understanding that they were witnessing something remarkable. A being whose skills and instincts came not from technology, rules, or privilege, but from a life that demanded strength, intelligence, and calmness under pressure. The stars outside the academy shimmered distant and cold. But within the walls, a new story was unfolding. A story of a human who had survived a death world and reshaped the perceptions of every alien around him. And for those who had watched, learned, and followed, the lesson was clear: underestimate humans at your own peril. In quiet corners, groups of students whispered about the human's next challenge, about what other feats he might accomplish, and about how they could prepare to meet him on equal ground. Some plotted, some hoped to impress him, and some simply marveled. The academy had never felt so alive, and the Deathworlder, calm as ever, continued his path. He did not boast. He did not demand respect. He simply existed, adapted, and acted, and in doing so, he left an imprint that no alien student and or teacher would ever forget. By the time the sun set on the academy grounds, one thing was certain: humans had arrived, and the galaxy would never look at them the same way again.